Welcome to the Practitioners Rise podcast. I'm your host, Haley Krajewski, marketing strategist, natural health advocate, and a mom on a mission. Each week, I sit down with natural health and wellness practitioners from around the country who are doing incredible life-changing work. We go deep on the things you've been Googling at midnight, share real tips and resources, and my hope is that you walk away feeling more informed, more empowered, and more confident in the choices you're making for yourself and your family. Because I fully believe that when practitioners rise, entire communities rise with them. So let's dive in. Welcome back. Today's guest lost her dad to cancer when she was 25, and then 3 years later, she was diagnosed herself, and again at age 30. 2 rounds of cancer before most of us have even figured out who we are or what we want with our lives. But instead of just surviving, Becky started asking why. And those questions led her somewhere most doctors never pointed her. So today, Becky Witt is the founder of Wholistic Nutrition, a functional medicine clinic and non-toxic living store that has been helping families find their root causes and heal for almost 7 years. Becky, I am so grateful you're here, and I cannot wait for this conversation because I know I have so many things that I want to learn and ask, as well as what our listeners want to ask as well.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
So let's kind of start where I alluded to in the intro of you lost your dad to cancer at age 25, and then you faced it twice at 28 and again at 30. So, many people in that situation, which understandably so, would really just follow the normal protocol that was given to them that the medical system tells us to do. So can you tell us about your experience through all of that and what made you start asking the different questions?
So, blessing in disguise, if there is such a thing with cancer, my dad knew that his cancer was directly correlated to undiagnosed celiac disease and eating gluten, that then led to inflammation, that then led to intestinal cancer. And that intestinal cancer could only be caused by undiagnosed celiac disease and eating gluten. So there was a why. So we knew that's what led to his cancer. So fast forward 3 years later, when I was diagnosed, I started asking why. And I remember my doctor being like, it's just bad luck. This just happens to people at your age at 28 years old. And we use chemo, we use radiation, and will take care of it. It's just bad luck. And I couldn't accept that answer. I was like, no, I knew what caused my dad. So why did my immune system go astray? What happened here? And nobody could give me answers. So I had to start dating on my own. And I was already in the medical field. So I was like going down those rabbit holes and stuff and not finding a whole lot. And then when I was re-diagnosed, so I did the chemo, I did the radiation, and it came back 6 months later. And it was all throughout my chest. It was all my spleen, my liver, all that sort of stuff. So it was full blown back. And I knew at that point something was going on. Like there was something that was leading to this immune dysregulation. So that's when I really started to dive in and go the natural route, look at toxins, look at gut health, look at food. I remember being in the oncologist's office and be like, okay, well, so what can I eat? And he goes, anything and everything, whatever you can eat to satisfy, to get calories in, to keep your weight up. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because I sugar, all these processed, highly inflammatory foods are just leading to further dysregulation. And so they were really no help at that point. So I started diving into books, research. I actually hired a naturopathic doctor at one point, and that's when I discovered my gut was a mess. I had food sensitivities, toxins were playing a role. So that's really what fueled all of this and really got me answers. And then at 30, I ultimately had a stem cell transplant, more chemo, a stem cell transplant. And then after that, my naturopathic doctor was like, hey, let's get you back on track. Let's recover your body. And at 31, I felt better. And I feel better now at 40 than I had in my teens and my 20s.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the body's trying to protect us. It's always trying to heal. It's always trying to protect us. We just have to figure out what are the stressors, what's interfering with that process. And that was my mission. And that's honestly been my mission ever since.
And you had mentioned that you were in the medical field before all of this happened. So what were you doing in the medical field before? What was your profession?
Yeah, so I was a diagnostic medical sonographer. So I worked in maternal fetal medicine doing high risk OB. I was in the ER. I was in general ultrasound. I was at a large hospital in Madison at the time.
Do you work now in, within holistic nutrition with babies or young kids, or like, does that play a part at all since that was a little bit of your past?
It's always been a passion, fertility, the fertility journey, pregnancy, postpartum, and kids. We work with a lot of kids. I would say half of our practice is children's health, and that has really become an epidemic in recent years. And we really love focusing on children's health because if we can impact them at such a young age and we can impact those parents, I mean, they're changing generations of
Yeah.
health.
And I was just having a conversation this week about kind of about that same thing of I didn't start looking into all of the things that are in our food or the ingredients, which we'll talk about that are in the things in our home until it was my kids who were struggling with eczema, which I want to talk about later too. But
Ooh,
I think it was a blessing in disguise for us so that we could have our eyes open to these things to start living better. Because then, as kids, as very young, I mean, they were babies at this point, they didn't have a choice to eat all of the processed things because it was really like meat and vegetables is what their systems could handle. I am just thankful in a way for that, that it really helped us take a deeper dive and has sent us on this journey. While not easy, I do think that they now are seeing what's in our food and it's causing them to have that understanding and awareness, although they're still like, I don't get why I can't eat that. So I love that part of what you're doing is serving kids because, like you said, I think it really is like an epidemic of things that we're seeing in children younger and younger. So okay, shifting back, because those are all things I want to dive into today, but I also have some really important questions I feel like our listeners are going to want to know about. So, you started diving in, like you knew it had to be something going on in your immune and your gut. And so, can you tell us, like, what were you changing? What were you addressing when you started working with that functional medicine doctor? And then how that made you feel different, especially after chemo and radiation and all the things?
yeah. So granted, I grew up on the standard American diet. Like we had real food, but then we also had margarine. We had sugar like crazy. I mean, I grew up with Fruity Pebbles and Fruit Loops and all the things. I was a two candy bar a day girl. Like I was addicted to processed food. I was addicted to sugar, all of that sort of stuff. So that was a huge turning point, and changing that really, that's why nutrition is the foundation and what we work on, because that impacted me so much, changing our diet to whole foods, to unprocessed foods, to getting rid of the gluten, the sugar, all of that sort of stuff. So that was very, very impactful. And honestly, the foundation for anybody in every journey has to be nutrition. And so that was the driving force. Gut health, I had candida overgrowth, bacteria overgrowth. I woke up in the morning, I felt great. By the time the day was done, I looked probably 8 months pregnant. I couldn't even fit into my gym clothes at the time. I had such bad bacterial overgrowth. So addressing that, that was life changing. Unknowingly, we were living in mold at the time. We had a water event that led to mold, and discovering that was huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, really, and everything that could impact the immune system, we just slowly addressed and worked through. And that's ultimately that inflammation decreased, joint pain went away, brain fog went away, the gut finally healed, skin. I had such bad acne in my 20s and I didn't have any idea why. But once we worked on all of that, clear skin ever since.
That's amazing. And I like how you said we slowly worked on it, right? Because sometimes people hearing this can be like, oh my gosh, that's so overwhelming. And I know too, like when I have brought my kids in for, we've done some of like the GI maps and the nutrient testing and all of that, it can feel really overwhelming. And I am the type that wants to like do it all right away. And then we
Me
have
too.
all of our kids on all of this stuff. And I'm like, what am I doing to myself? And then it didn't end up working because I was like, this is too hard to stay on track. So now we are addressing one child at a time. I know
Yeah.
sometimes it might not be fair to like who I'm going to first, but can you talk through that of I think even just the bacteria overgrowth and the inflammation because other people might be experiencing that too. So what did that process look like for you?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up because it is a slow process and it has to be systematically addressed. So when we look at the body, we have to look at the body as a funnel. And is the colon properly eliminating? Are we eliminating those toxins through our stool? Because if that's not the case, if we're constipated, we have to address that first. Because if we go and we start pushing other things, we start killing off that bacteria, we're going to end up with more symptoms because we're not able to fully eliminate what we're killing off. And so really it's looking at colon, and then the bile dumps into the colon. So we have to make sure the bile is flowing. We have to make sure that the liver is creating enough bile and that's healthy and that's flowing. And then we have to look at organs and lymph and nutrient deficiencies. Like really, it's a systematic approach. And then all of that we have to work on one thing at a time and then get the body draining. And then we can address the bacterial overgrowth. Because if you address bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, and you don't have bile flowing, you don't have the liver working properly, you don't have enough enzymes on board, that stomach acid isn't optimized, it's just going to come back. And that's what we see about 60 to 70% of bacterial overgrowth cases do relapse. If you go to a doctor, say a conventional doctor who maybe uses rifaximin or some sort of antibiotic to get rid of the bacteria, a lot of times those people relapse because upstream was never addressed.
Yes. And that was so helpful to explain it that way because I've actually, even with all of the work we've been doing, I've never been explained that way of understanding. Well, first you have to fix that before you can address everything else, which makes total sense because if your body's not eliminating it properly, then the more we put in, it's just going to cause it to come back. So interesting. Now that just has my mind going of like, maybe we're getting this one thing wrong.
But it does. And bile is so overlooked. So a lot of times we hear we need to support the liver, we need to support the liver. But if that liver is pushing, you're pushing methylation, you're pushing the liver with different herbs and supplements, but that bile is sluggish. Well, that's going to overflow our bucket. And then our skin can react. We can react with brain fog, restless sleep, those sort of things. So really, once the colon is moving, bile is key. It is the unsung hero of digestion, hormone elimination, toxin elimination, skin health, everything.
So can you talk more into that then? Because someone might be hearing that and I'm also hearing it and be like, okay, what does that actually mean? No, when like I know what bile is, but like how do you look at it? How do you know if it's functioning properly or doing what it's supposed to be doing?
So we look at it on an organic acids test, which is a urine test that measures metabolites. So that can indicate whether bile is optimal or maybe backed up a little bit. Then also on a GI map, that steatocrit marker on there, that is a function of bile as well. And so a lot of times, if somebody's constipated, we automatically know there's probably a bile issue. If there's skin issues, that can point to a bile issue. If there's brain fog, if there's headaches, stuff like that, that can all point to a bile issue. Or if stool is floating, light or pale colored stool, those are very big signals that point to a bile issue. But really, we use testing as well as symptoms to create a whole picture.
Okay. And so then let's say someone is, and if you don't mind walking through this, so let's
Yeah.
say someone is constipated, you do the test, you notice that there is the bile issue there. How do you typically then go about, or how do you decide what to do first?
So first, we want to get the colon moving. So we want to have at least 1 to 3 bowel movements a day. So sometimes that looks like maybe we need to use supports like increasing hydration, minerals, fiber, magnesium, vitamin C, stuff like that. Things that we can do to get the colon moving. And then bile flow looks like, well, maybe with kids especially, they respond really well to maybe some castor oil over the liver at nighttime. That can be super supportive, super helpful. There are other supplements that we can use, digestive bitters. So that bitter taste will stimulate bile and stimulate bile flow. That can be super helpful. There's other supplements like taurine, body bio PC, like phosphatidylcholine can help to move the bile, TUDCA, those sort of things. But we don't jump to those. We really want to use a gentle approach and then use those as needed.
Okay. So because, and I asked this because one of my kids has been dealing with constipation and
Oh, yeah.
our chiropractor actually brought up the castor oil pack. So I just bought one and I washed all the things first. And then trying that at night and
Yeah.
he is totally a trooper because he's always like, okay, my mom does all these weird things.
Our daughter, she's 7 months old, and at 4 months, she started to develop eczema all over her belly and constipation. And if we do those castor oil packs religiously every single night, she is completely fine. And it is a bile flow issue. We run testing, and it is a complete well, microbiome issue, but also bioflow issue. And we have to address that bioflow before we can address the microbiome.
And so how long, because that's the other thing with the castor oil is like, how long do you do it? If you do it like every night for a month, or is it different for everyone? Or it really
Different
depends
for
on the
everyone. Yeah, we build up slowly. So, okay, so say an adult who's had a whole lifetime of like toxin exposures, gut issues, that sort of stuff. We want to start a little more gently, make sure they can tolerate it. So maybe starting with a half an hour to an hour. If they have histamine intolerance, maybe even less than that, and then building up to tolerating it all night. And kids a lot of times can tolerate it all night.
Okay. So I want to go again, I'm jumping around, but I think because you had mentioned your daughter had eczema, constipation, I think that leads into the next thing I wanted to talk about because this was really the start of our journey and kind of what we were talking about before we hit record. The twins had awful eczema. It was covering their entire body. Like it looked so painful. And this was, I think, 4 months old. And so I was exclusively breastfeeding. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong that is causing this? Right. So it wasn't just like
Oh,
painful for them, but as a mom, you have all of this guilt and it just
yeah.
becomes like so emotionally just draining. Right. And everybody we went to was like, it's just bad eczema. It's just bad eczema. You're going to have to put this steroid cream on it every single day forever. We even went to a dermatologist, all of this. And that's when someone had said to me, well, have you ever thought about food allergies or food intolerances? And I'm like, no, I've never thought about this. And as after also, I spent like thousands of dollars on every freaking thing out there. Right? I even tried making my own breast milk lotion. I'm like, nothing is working. And so, anyways, we ended up getting them tested for food. And I think the biggest things were like dairy,
Yep.
eggs, and nuts. And so as soon as I cut that out of my diet because I was breastfeeding, their skin was clear within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And that's what sent me on this journey. So I would love to talk about that because I think there's still so many people that don't understand eczema starts in the gut. And so often, like, there's no cream that's going to cure it. Right. So
100%.
can you talk a little bit into maybe like what you see or what you know about eczema and just I think help some of the listeners maybe who are also dealing with this because it is hard.
It is so hard. And as a mom, we do live with so much mom guilt and we question everything. And we don't want we want to take moms out of that and know that we want them to know that it's not anything they did. It's not anything they're doing. And it happens. And we'll talk about underlying drivers and stuff like that. But it is crazy how much of an epidemic it is now. 1 in 5 kids now have eczema. And it's a generational thing. It's gut health that's passed down. It's our toxin exposures that we're exposed to daily. And then passing that toxin load down. It's interventions during pregnancy and delivery and stuff like that. There's so much to it, but it is at its core an inflammatory and an immune system issue. And the gut plays a huge role in that because the immune system's right outside the gut. The leaky gut can create a lot of immune dysfunction. It can create a lot of inflammation. And so the gut is a big contributor. So we really want to definitely balance the gut. And then we also want to look at what could have created that gut dysfunction. And for some, it's antibiotics. For some, we will never know. But for others, it could be a toxin exposure currently. Mold is a huge driver of eczema. Those are like pretty severe cases or cases that don't respond well to interventions or they keep flaring, they keep relapsing, stuff like that. So that heavy metals, water, toxins in our water, stuff like that. But definitely the gut. And no steroid is ever going to fix it. No cream is ever going to fix it. And honestly, creams can make it worse. It can trap bacteria, that sort of stuff. So we really want to use minimal creams in our practice. We really use a lot of minimal stuff.
Yes. And I think for me, it was so hard too, because it was like, I know this isn't good to be putting on here, but at the same time, like, this is the only thing I had been given to do that
Yeah.
was actually like calming.
People will restrict and restrict and restrict for years when really, when you address the underlying gut dysfunction, you address the underlying leaky gut, the reasons for it, say the overgrowth, the candida, the high fungal load. So many times we are able to reintroduce those foods and children are fine. And that's what we want. We really want to be able to reintroduce the foods. We don't want to live a restricted diet forever. So
Yeah.
there's hope for that. Even allergies, there's hope for.
Yes, which is also something we deal with. And I think a big part of it is because I look at my oldest and my youngest who don't really have any allergies, anything going on, but then the twins. And I think a lot of it like stems back to even because I remember asking we went to an allergy doctor for the
Yeah.
testing, right? And I was like, is there research on, did they get this because they were born early, because they were not born vaginally? Like, I think there's so many causes from just what happened during pregnancy and at birth where like now knowing what I know, I would have went a totally different route, but I didn't know that then.
Hey,
So
and giving ourselves grace for that is huge. And also, we can't control those things too. Like so many of us can't control delivery. We can't control all of that. We need antibiotics in pregnancy are needed to a certain degree for something, like they're absolutely necessary. So the hope is then found in there are things we can do to adjust that microbiome. There's interventions we can do. Like there's so much that we can do for eczema to be flare free for life.
that's amazing. So, what would you say for someone listening who is maybe dealing with it with themselves or in their kids? And where should they start?
Start with food, start with gut healing, all natural, whole foods. Dairy is a huge trigger. So we do start people with eliminating dairy, gluten. Sometimes we have to go to corn, soy, stuff like that. But we also want to figure out why we have to eliminate those foods. So I would start with the food. And there's so many times there's constipation alongside with it. And when you adjust the food, that constipation gets better. When you eliminate those food sensitivities, the constipation gets better. And so we want to work on the food, the constipation, and then start those castor oil packs. Get that bile flowing. I have seen eczema disappear just by relieving constipation and getting bile flowing.
Do you have specific castor oil packs? Because I also was like, I don't even know what that is. And so there's like 5 million of them that come up on Amazon. I did have my chiropractor send me which one she uses, but do you have one that you sell or that you would recommend? Because I can make sure to put that link on there too.
We do. We have specific ones for kids. We have specific ones for adults. And then, honestly, you probably will find this. Castor oil is super messy. It's very thick. It stains things. And so we actually have roller balls at our office that you are available in store and on in our online store. And you just roll the castor oil right on, and then they're refillable. So you're not putting it on your fingers. You're not smearing it everywhere because it's such a pain. So roller balls are life-saving.
Okay, that is good to know because I haven't started yet and it's probably going to be a mess.
Get the proper fitted castor oil pack. We have all of that at our store.
So I know we've talked a lot about like eczema and the symptoms that people can have, but before we dive in and switch gears, what are some things that you often see people coming to you for that they just had these symptoms that most people normalize? They're like, I just don't feel good. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I know you probably get a lot, but like, what are some of the most common that you see? And then how can they maybe start to shift to start feeling better? Because I'm assuming you have some people that get really amazing results and like you
Oh,
said, feel better at 40 or 50 than they did.
yes. We have on our Instagram page, we have 3 client win highlights because we just keep accumulating these beautiful wins, and all credit to them and all the work they're putting in. We're just so proud of how much work and how our clients just will follow our advice. And then, yeah, headaches, people normalize headaches. That's a huge one.
Mhm.
Fatigue. Fatigue is normalized, gut issues, bloating, constipation, even going to a doctor, constipation. Yeah, we don't have to have a bowel movement every day. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We want to have at least 1 to 3 every day. So that's become normalized. For women, heavy periods, cramping, painful periods have become normalized, and those are not normal. We see that stuff improve all the time. So skin stuff, that's also been normalized. Oh, we just have itchy skin, or we just have dry skin or acne, or, that's all become normalized when all of that's not normal. And there's hope for all of it.
And I think the thing that I've been seeing, a lot of the practitioners that I work with, and a big thing that we talk about is We are so used to being able to just go to the doctor for a quick fix, like take this, it'll heal, or do this, it'll heal. Where some of this more natural route takes time. And so it's having that trust. How do you work with people through that? Because it isn't ever a quick fix. And sometimes it's a long game, or people fall off track and they're like, this is too hard. Like, can you maybe talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, falling off track almost always happens, and it's always a blessing because people are like, "Whoa, I did not realize how good I was feeling," because it is such a gentle process. People are like, "Oh, am I really feeling," and then they accidentally fall off the rails, and they're like, "I was feeling so much better. I didn't realize how good I was feeling until I felt bad again." And so it's always a blessing in disguise when that happens, and we just prepare them. And then at every visit, we revisit the symptoms, and it is amazing how many times people are like, "I had that? Wow, I forgot I had that. Wow, you're right. This stuff is improving. It is working. It's just slow." And by slow, I mean like every month we make progress and it all adds up. And that's where people really are like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I had that. I forgot I had that." So revisiting and reminding, like we want to look back, but to see how far we've come. But that's it. That's the only reason we want to look back. And so we do that with people when we prepare them that this is going to be a gradual process. And then when we look back, they're like, "Wow, I cannot believe how far I've come."
And I think when we look at it from a standpoint of they've probably been dealing with this for years
Yeah.
or months. And if they can feel better 1 month at a time and
Yes.
know that they don't ever have to go back to that, like that is worth it in and of itself. Like it took your body a long time to get there. So it might take a little bit of time to get back.
Yes, 100%. And the general rule we say is for every year that you have felt this way and you've been this sick, give yourself at least 1 month of that many years to feel better. So, say you've been feeling this unwell for a decade. Well, give yourself at least 6 to 10 months then to really feel like really good.
Mhm.
And honestly, most of the time it happens in a shorter period of time.
Yes. So I want to switch gears a little bit to a couple of things. There's so many people that aren't necessarily celiac that have gluten intolerance, and it's become so much more popular. And I think there's this myth or group of people that think like that's just nonsense. So can you maybe speak more into why are so many people now intolerant to gluten? What is it doing to our body? All of that.
Yeah, it's definitely more popular per se, but when we look at the testing and we actually measure the amount of inflammation that gluten is causing in somebody's body, it is very significant, very significant. And it's a combination of things. It's what we've done to gluten over the years. Like we've hybridized it, we've sprayed it with glyphosate, and glyphosate itself being sprayed on those crops is a known microbiome disruptor. So it will go in, and how it works is it disrupts this pathway in plants and weeds called the shikimate pathway. It disrupts that. And they got it okayed because we don't have that pathway in ourselves, but our gut bacteria do. So every time that we ingest that gluten that's been sprayed, that wheat that's been sprayed, other grains that have been sprayed, we're ingesting that glyphosate and that's disrupting our gut microbiome. And that is a huge contributor to all this gluten sensitivity that we're seeing this day and age.
And was it just not sprayed on our crops before? Because I think that's what
Yeah.
sure, like everyone has said, like, well, we never used to have all of these things. But I think it's because they ate from the farm. Like their meat came from the farm. All of the things they ate weren't mass produced and sprayed with all of these chemicals.
Correct. And really, glyphosate and Roundup and stuff like all these pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, they all have taken off in the 90s. And that's when you look at the charts, that's when autoimmunity took off. That's when gluten sensitivity skyrocketed. So that's a huge contributor to it, definitely. The processed diet is also a contributor to it. The amount of stress that we're under, our chronic busyness, like all of that plays a role in our gut health.
Yes, 100%. And so there's another podcast I listened to, and I've just started learning more about glyphosate. And it's like mind blowing to me that
Mhm.
we are letting this stuff on our crops, but it's doing to everyone around it. So Can you share more, or do you know, like, is it also sprayed on organic products?
No.
Like, is there a difference between organic and non-organic?
There definitely is a difference between non-organic and organic. And in order to have that organic certification that we see on things, they cannot use glyphosate. They cannot use those herbicides and pesticides like that. So there is a
Okay.
difference. And there's actually been a really cool study of a family. They took a family and they measured in their urine their glyphosate levels when they were eating conventionally. And then they made them or they had them go organic for, I think it was a week. And they remeasured those levels and they had none.
Wow. Okay.
There was a huge difference in eating organic.
Yes, I think I've finally convinced my husband that organic is better because he just looks at the prices, and now he's, like, fully on board, but it's just switching a couple things at a time, right? So it's not like all of the sudden everything I buy, right? We have to find good swaps and good things, and it's just a work in progress.
Well, we were those people too. Like we were those people. We thought organic was a hoax until it is realizing this before you get sick, before you have such a health crisis.
And with glyphosate, I just wanna go back there because I think people don't always realize the amount of things that are sprayed on our foods that, like, can't be washed off just by washing your apple off. Like, there are chemicals that are just in there forever. So, do you have more information around that, or, like, what does that do to our bodies?
Yeah, and really, we want to follow is the clean 15 and the dirty dozen. So that you're going to have your clean 15. Those are your cleanest foods that you do not necessarily have to buy organic because they have the least amount of pesticides sprayed on them. And then the dirty dozen are the ones that you really want to focus on getting organic because those are the ones that are the most heavily sprayed. And so, yes, to a degree, you can wash things off, but on those, you can't wash everything off. So and then that is impacting the gut. That is impacting the immune system. That's impacting the liver. That's impacting bile.
Okay. Thank you. I've been hearing so much about that, and it's probably just because I heard one thing and now I'm, like, paying attention to it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you are because glyphosate just tried. So I believe it's Bayer now who owns Roundup, but the glyphosate, what's in Roundup, and they just try to get immunity. So you know how vaccine companies have gotten immunity, you can't sue them if your child has an act or an injury from them. Glyphosate just took it and tried to get immunity in the same way, but it just was stopped a couple weeks ago. So that
I
is
wasn't granted because that would be awful.
no, it was stopped. Yes.
Okay, that's so good. And I part of the podcast I was listening to was talking about how they are trying to, ban glyphosate, but if they did it overnight, it would just be like basically a disaster to farmers because they are like so used to having this. So how can we help the farmers get back to more regenerative farming in a way that's really helping everyone in our country, which would be amazing. Like, I would
Right.
love to see the shift go back to regenerative farming because I was even talking to my husband the other day, like, I'm not calling out anyone in particular, but like, none of our local meat markets are actually local meat. Like, everything is still shipped in from Reinhardt and Cisco. And like, our grocery stores, like, none of that is providing these local things from farmers who are doing the regenerative farming.
So we have such a plethora of them in our area. So there's Blazers, there's Spring Cut Cattle, there's the Glacier's Edge. Like there's so many, but you have to be intentional and go out and find them and visit your local farmers markets and visit Menominee Market and where those local farmers are bringing their goods and just creating that as a new norm
Mm.
is what we really want to do.
Yes, 100%. And that's what we were talking about was like, yes, there are those farmers out there, but I think everyone is so stuck on like the convenience of it that they're
Mhm.
just going to go to the meat market. They're just going to go to the grocery store where if we could help make it more convenient, maybe more people would eat it. But yes, we go to one of our friends has Elmaker's farm here in Utah, and we've been getting our beef and our pork, and now I'm like looking for somewhere to get chicken. So, and then
You're supporting local families. You're
exactly.
keeping that economy local, which is just huge. And I honestly think there is a shift happening and people are doing that more and it is becoming more normalized. And I think the more we normalize that, the more we normalize real food, the more we normalize feeling good, the more we normalize, hey, bringing our own food to birthday parties and being okay with that and having our group of friends that does the same thing. And it's just normalizing all of it.
And, kids love that too. Like we just built a massive garden. I should say we, as in my dad, helped us build a massive garden last year. And it was so fun for the kids to help plant it and just harvest that when it was ready, right? Like my youngest would just go out and like pick broccoli off and just like start eating a huge thing of
You
broccoli. And
do it.
we
Yeah.
don't see most kids doing that, but when we can normalize it, they
Yep.
do love it, right?
There is a crazy statistic that if kids are involved in the food prep, they're involved in the garden, they're involved in making the food, they eat up to 70% more vegetables.
Wow.
Realizing that is huge, and that's where it has to happen. And kids are so intuitive, they're so connected. If you educate them, they want to make the right choices. They want to learn how their body feels when they make those choices. Because when they make the other choices, then they know.
My kids wanted to help make dinner the other night. And so I let them do like, we do a bunch of like sheet pans with veggies and potatoes. And so I let them cut them up. And I'm like, I had to just walk outside for a little bit because there was such a disaster in my kitchen. I'm like, it'll be okay. It'll be okay.
Yeah,
They're fine. This was good for them.
it's an opportunity for us to take deep breaths and then
Yeah.
just be in the moment with them and embrace it because it can all be cleaned up. It'll all be fine. But yeah, yes, it will get messy.
Oh, amazing. Okay. So moving in now, talking about your toxin-free living store. There are so many toxins in our homes, in the American households right now that many people are oblivious to, and it's not their fault. It's just because, again, we've never had that education or awareness around like what's in these products is actually not good for us. So, can you share some of like the most common ones and then what you typically suggest for a swap? Again, we'll put links to all of your stuff on here, but I'd love just sharing because I know just like the eliminating the food and doing all of that, products can also be overwhelming at times. So, it's
And one swap at a time is what we say, one thing at a time. And fragrance is when you really want to focus in on fragrance first because hormone disruption is rampant with fragrance and they can hide over 300 things, 300 chemicals and the word fragrance. So we really want to like the fragrance things we want to eliminate. So fragrance free shampoos, conditioners, and dish soaps, and really focusing on that. So, our cleaning products, we want to look at our cleaning products, anything that we're inhaling, anything that we're putting on our skin. So, we really want to focus on those things first, anything we're inhaling. And anything that touches our skin, that's really what we want to focus in on first.
and that makes me think of because I have lots of littles and young girls in my life too, and I know that there's this like I heard this the other day too. Somewhere along the way, like we were taught that we have to smell good, right? And so there's all these body sprays and lotions and things you're talking about that include fragrance. So for girls especially, like what's that doing to their hormones, and how can that be critical just as
Oh,
they're growing up and aging?
honestly, early puberty in our girls has doubled in recent years, and it is a toxic situation from the fragrances, from perfume, from the lip glosses, from all the stuff that we're normalizing that these little girls should be putting on themselves to the cleaning products we're using. All of that is contributing to this overall toxic load that is increasing estrogen. All these estrogen mimicking chemicals are in these things. And then from the tampons that we use to the pads and all that sort of stuff that we're using, that all contributes to it. So decreasing that toxic load really is going to be huge for avoiding that early puberty, which then has downstream consequences.
I was just going to ask that. So, yes, there's early puberty, but then what does that mean later on, right? Like, what do you see typically happening? Or maybe what does research say, like, because of this? what else are they then experiencing?
Yeah, there's an increased risk for estrogen-driven cancers then later on in life. There's an increased risk for obesity later on in life. There's an increased risk for for liver health, for bile, all of that sort of stuff. It all adds up.
And we just don't notice it again because we've never taught that. And I didn't even know, like you said, there can be 300 chemicals hidden behind the word fragrance.
Oh,
That is like mind blowing to me.
and when you start, it's almost like you have to take a step back sometimes when you start to learn all this information too, because you can be overwhelming and you can be all consumed by it, and you can create and go to the opposite side where you're creating an unhealthy balance where you're so restrictive and you're so consumed by it and you're constantly digging. And we want to find a balance with it all. Like we're not going to be able to control everything. We can control the controllables, but we have to be able to release the rest. We
Yeah.
can't be so consumed by it. We want to create a balance, and that balance looks different for everybody's family.
So, what would you say then for someone listening who wants to start making some of those swaps? Like, what are your favorite swaps for the lotions, the cleaning products, the tampons? Like you said, a lot of that stuff people don't even know it has those
Yeah.
chemicals.
Well, our store has all of those, our favorites. So over the years, we've been on this journey for almost 15 years at this point. And so we have tried so many things. So our store has what we've tried. It actually works. So like Little Seed Farm deodorant, new deodorant. The charcoal works the best. So for lotions, we really want to be minimal. Rocasa has great stuff. Alavia, the brand Alavia has great non-toxic lotions and stuff like that. Plastic free, toxin free tampons, that sort of stuff. Shampoo, we love Purina, we love Inner Sense. Those are some of the first ones on the market, some of the strictest regulations. We love those. Oh gosh, cleaning products, Branch Basics, hands down, it's the most gentle. If you're dealing with eczema, Branch Basics laundry detergent is going to be the most gentle that you can find out there for eczema. And then they have cleaning supplies, Briotech, sanitizer. That's going to be huge. Yeah, there's so many good ones out there.
And I know your store, if anyone listening is local in Chippewa Falls, you're opening a toxin-free store in Market on River, which I visit there all the time, working and drinking hiker coffee. But share a little bit more. You're going to have all these products there.
Yeah, we're going to have the majority of our non-toxic products there. So anything from those cleaning supplies, the laundry, to nail polish, to non-toxic perfume, to those household cleaners, candles. Candles are a huge source of toxins that we just breathe in and don't think anything of it. I mean, I used to get the Bath and Body Works candles, the lotion, all that sort of stuff, and that all adds up. So we have a lot of things, pretty much everything to switch over your life, one thing at a time.
When you say candles, I actually, this past winter, I'm like, well, I'm going to try to make my own candles because I could never find a good, like,
Oh,
non-toxic candle. And so I spent too much buying all the things to make the candles. And I think I made like one round of them. It was fun, but it was also like just a mess and very time consuming. But I'm like,
yes.
okay, maybe I'll try again next winter. Although I was thinking about, because we just redid our deck, I want citronella candles. I'm like, I wonder if I could
Ooh,
make a citronella candle.
I
Like if
bet
I
you.
buy a citronella oil, I don't know. So it's on my mind, but maybe I'll have to come to your store first.
I love that you love to do that. And some people do. Some people create their own laundry, their own lotion, their all of that. And that kudos to them. But for those of us who don't have the time,
Yes,
we have
exactly.
a store for.
Yes. And that was one of those things. Often I know when I like post something like looking for this, people say, make your own. I'm like, I don't have time for that right now. So I just want the best place to like buy it.
Yes, and that was the whole point of the store too. I mean, over the years, we would be paying shipping for all these different products. So we're like, let's get this online from one convenient location. And so that's why we have the online store too. And so you can get all those different products, what you need, protein powders, electrolytes, you name it, supplements, plus your non-toxic living stuff, all from one location, and you're not paying all that shipping in different places.
100%. And you know that it is good, high quality. I think that's the thing is like sometimes people can market it as high quality or good, but you
Yes.
don't actually know if what you're getting is high quality. You can come to someone, you know, yeah,
And that's the thing, like strictly look at these products. We vet them, and you can walk into the store and trust anything. Unlike walking into, like, let's say a Target, which is doing way better on their non-toxic things, but you have to go hunt and dig and all that. So we really wanted to just bring a one-stop shop that has it all.
So I know I'm very excited. And there was one more thing I wanted to ask, just because this came up from someone that had messaged, was like, I want to learn more about collagen. Do you do a lot with collagen? Is that something you can talk to us on? And like, do we actually need it as women as we're aging? What type is good? What isn't good? Can you just maybe share more on that? And if you don't do a lot with it, that's okay. We don't
Yeah,
have to.
and this honestly ties into the glyphosate conversation too, because glyphosate is a major driver of like low collagen. It impacts our collagen tremendously, and so do other toxins. I mean, mold is a huge impact on collagen as well. But yes, collagen decreases, and there are actually 4 different types of collagen. We always think of the type that always impacts like the hair, the skin, the nails, but there's another other types that impact the joints, the ligaments, all that sort of stuff. So we have various types of collagen in our office for sure. One with all 4 types, and then a couple others with just the type for hair, skin, and nails that are practitioner grade, and they're tested for heavy metals, they're tested for toxins, they're tested for all that, because it's a wild, wild west out there in the supplement industry. Anything and everything. And there was a study done on supplements from, say, Walmart and Amazon. Don't quote me on this, but the vast majority, if not like 90% of them, had fillers and were not actually what they said they were. So when we get supplements, we're getting them directly from the people, the manufacturers. There's no way that they're tampered with at all, unlike Amazon and stuff like that.
If there's something where like I can't make it somewhere to get it, I'll just purchase it from Amazon. But I'm always worried, like, is it actually what they say it is?
No, not there's no guarantee with that. And we have had so many people over the years who have been on a supplement from us and will bring in one and say, I got this from Amazon in a pinch. Look at it. It's completely different. It's not even the same size capsule, or even protein powders. They'll be like this one, and the bag, like the amount in the bag is different and everything. I kid you not, it happens at least once a month for people bring stuff in from Amazon, and they're like, this is nowhere near the same.
That is crazy and scary all at
Yes.
the same time. Because again, how would we know where we want to trust that what we're getting because it has the seal on? That's what I'm like, well, it has the seal on it, so it must be good. That's so naive of me thinking that.
Well, we want to trust companies. We want to trust people. We really want to. But yeah, this day and age with supplements specifically, and protein powders and electrolytes and stuff like that on Amazon, we really can't.
I'll cancel the electrolyte subscription that I just got on Amazon and I'm going to come to you instead.
I like prescriptions too.
Okay, so on the collagen, and do you have a couple of minutes? I know we're going a little bit
I
longer
totally do.
on
Yeah.
our question. Okay, so on the collagen, I think it goes back to, okay, like, well, what type do I need? Again, I'm sure it's different for every person, but I know there's so many, like, again, all these health fads, like, well, you should take this collagen, or collagen is good for everything. Buy this. Like, how do you say which kind you need and
Based
when?
on the symptoms, is it hair, skin, and nails? Is it more joint pain? Is it more ligament? Stuff like that. Really, it's based on that. And honestly, we also want them to get it from food. We want you to be drinking the collagen-rich bone broth. We want you to be cooking with those meats in the bone and eating bone marrow and stuff like that. We really want you to be getting it from food too. And then a supplement is there to supplement a whole food diet and whole food sources of that collagen. And then decreasing inflammation as a whole so that collagen doesn't break down.
Okay. I love that you say that, because one of my friends who we always voice note back and forth and we talk about these things, but she started making her own bone broth, and she's like, all you have to do is just ask your farmer for like the
Yep.
bone. And then she goes, I just do it in the crock pot and it's super easy.
Meat stock, so cooking it low for less time and not with the bones and just the meat. I mean, meat stock, that is one of the most healing foods you could give your kids when they introduce foods. And for eczema, that helps to heal a gut. Meat stock is wonderful for that. Bone marrow. So kids naturally decrease in iron at around like 6 months of age. Well, if you introduce bone marrow, that's so rich in iron, and you won't necessarily need an iron supplement.
That is so interesting. I never even thought of that, but I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of times I go back and forth because my husband uses a lot of like chicken stock or beef stock in the
Yeah.
recipes he uses. And I've like really struggled to find like a good, clean one.
Yeah.
And it drives me a little bit crazy, but I'm like, so if you have any suggestions on that, I know making your own, but it's like, okay, that
Yeah, I also don't always do that. If I'm creating a roast, okay, then yes, great, I can do that. But Costco actually has organic chicken stock, organic beef stock, and so I get it from there.
all right. And I go to Costco, so I'm gonna look for that next
Yeah,
time.
no, that one's good.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Okay. I know that we could talk forever. The one last thing I want to say is there something that nobody ever asks you that you wish they would ask you?
Oh gosh, is there something nobody asked? I've been asked a lot over the years.
Or something that you don't really talk about that you wish you could talk about more? And I know I'm putting you on the spot. So if there's
We're even open about our adoption journey, all that sort of stuff. And I love talking about that. I love normalizing the beauty that's found in adoption. So, yeah, if you ask me about that, I could talk about that all day as well. We do talk about toxins a lot. We do talk about, gosh, what are some things I don't talk about? My husband and how much he is an integral part of everything and how he has come to change his mind over the years and evolved with me. And that is huge. And I could do a whole podcast on just leading by example and helping husbands come on board because that is a huge, huge factor in making this work for kids, for even women. So they're not cooking different meals and everything like that. So, yeah, talk about the husbands getting on board.
and so does he work then with at Holistic Nutrition as well?
He has a full-time job, and then this is the job he doesn't get paid for. He does all of our purchasing, and he does all the back end stuff. He's the back end guy that you don't see who doesn't get enough credit for everything.
Oh, props to him if he listens to this episode. That is
Yeah.
incredible. It's a lot of what I talked to my husband about. He has been amazing as well. And we talk about it's not only hard sometimes for us to get on board with these changes we need to make, but our kids go to a lot of different places and families. And so like, how can we support everyone else to understand like why are we making these changes? Why are they important? And
Yeah.
and I know we could go on forever and ever, but you
We just
probably
might have to have another conversation about this because this is huge.
exactly. So this will be another podcast episode. But Aki, thank you so much for being here today. I really, really appreciate it. I know I learned much, so I'm sure our listeners did too. Is there any final words you want to leave them with today?
There's always hope. There's always hope for whatever condition, whether it's autoimmunity, whether it's eczema, whether it's other skin conditions, headaches, periods, there's hope. And functional medicine, nutrition, all of that is at the foundation.
Well, thank you so much again. I will share all of your links on the show notes so people can find you and work with you if they are ready to start their healing journey. So thank you again, Becky. Thanks for being here today. I hope this episode gave you something you needed, whether that's a new perspective, a resource to explore, or just the reminder that you're not alone in this journey. And if today's episode spoke to you, tag me on Instagram, share with a friend, leave a review. That's how we build stronger, healthier communities together. One practitioner, one story, one family at a time. So see you next week. And if you're a natural health and wellness practitioner with a story to tell, I'd love to connect. You can find me at practitionersrise.com. Thank you.